Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are we doing? Let's get ready for our first lesson. First off, my name is Mr. Stevens. I already gave you the little room intro. This is how we're going to be doing things. For now, this is how I like to do things. So you can kind of see that it's me and I'm showing you stuff. I like this a little bit better. We can play with different methods and modes of getting you information. For right now, this is what I think works best. Last spring, it's going to work best for us. So, what are we learning about today? We're learning about absolute value. What is absolute value? Oh, by the way, you're sitting at home, you're watching a video of things. What should you be doing? You should be taking notes. You should be acting like you're in class. You should have a notebook. It is a dedicated math notebook. But I'm not in class, Mr. Stevens. I know you're not in class, but you are still in class. So behave and act like you are sitting right here with me. When I take notes, when I write things on the board, you write things in your notes. You have the videos available, but writing things down just helps you learn. Scientific fact. And it's a whole lot easier for you to scan through that notes that you've written down and taken when you're doing an assignment than to go back and try to find the exact spot on a video where I go through something. So it would really be helpful for you to write down the things that I'm putting up here on the board. So what is absolute value? The definition of absolute value is distance from zero. How far away is a given number from zero? So right here, if I want the absolute value of 2, how far away is 2? It's 2 units away from 0. So the absolute value of 2 is 2. It's 2 units from 0. What is the absolute value of -2? Well, if I go over here, I am also 2 units away from 0. So the absolute value of -2 is also 2. Do not think, oh, it just changes the sign. You're going to have problems. If you start thinking, oh, it's always positive, I can always change things and say, what is the opposite of the absolute value of 2? Well, remember, I didn't call that a negative sign, I called it an opposite sign. The more technical name is opposite. And you'll hear me say that thing just to kind of remind you of some things here, because now the absolute value of 2 is 2. The opposite of that is -2. So don't think absolute value is going to just magically change everything positive, because if I have an opposite or negative sign out front, my answer is going to be an opposite of 2 or -2 for a final answer. So don't get yourself in the mindset that absolute value is always going to give me a positive answer. Could give me a negative answer. So absolute value is distance from 0. Whatever value is in here, the absolute value of that gives me how far it is from 0. Right? If there's a negative out front of my absolute value, that changes and becomes the opposite. So we could have this. The opposite of the absolute value of -3. Well, the absolute value of -3 is, very good, 3. The opposite of that is -3. All right? Any questions? Couldn't hear that? All right. Next, I'm going to float to the other board in the classroom where I got some other things written down, and then I'm going to edit this so you won't see it. It'll be cool. Or maybe I'll leave it in. Who knows? So, comparison. A lot of people forget the name of this thing, this symbol. This is the is less than symbol. This is the is greater than symbol. Again, you should be writing this in your notes. Is less than, is greater than. Okay? How do you know if something's less than or greater than? Well, for the most part, you kind of just know. We like to refer back to the number line for these questions. Things that are to the right are greater. That's pretty obvious if it's positives and negatives. If I have two values here, 3 and 5, 5 is more than 3. Keep that in mind if we're on this side of our number line. If I have -3 and -5 on my number line, -3 is to the right, -3 is greater. Some people like to think, you know, what's bigger, closer to 0. Closer to 0 only works if I'm all over here. Doesn't work if I'm both two positives, okay? So we like to think, you know, whatever's further right is the greater value. That's a more consistent way to look at things. So here we go. Fill in the symbols with greaters, less than's, maybe an equal to. 7 and 10, okay? 7 and 10, if I think about it, pretty simple. 7 is less than 10. So I put an is less than symbol in there. And then, of course, I would read this. 7 is less than 10. Got that in there, okay? -5, -3, we talked about this. If I got -5 and -3, -3 is to the right. That's the bigger number, that's the smaller number. So -5 is less than -3. Number 3, I'll go slow because I remember you're writing these in your notes here. That should be enough time. I got an absolute value of -7. So again, going back to our absolute value conversation from a second ago, the absolute value of -7 is very good. +7 and 4. So make sure you evaluate that before you put your comparison sign in. I've got 7 and 4. 7 is greater than 4. So I have my greater than symbol. Number 4. Again, write it down. Evaluate your absolute values before you make your comparison. So here, absolute value of -5, absolute value of -3. Now make a comparison, 5, 3, greater than. Number 5, oh my goodness, fractions and decimals. That's right, boys and girls, you've got to be good at fractions and decimals. You've learned this stuff before. I know you have. The easiest way to compare fractions and decimals is to make everything into a decimal. It's just easiest, okay? They're a little bit easier to wrap your head around. Fractions, some people just don't jive with, okay? So, 2 and 3/4. How do I change a fraction into a decimal? Does anybody remember how to change a fraction into a decimal? Very good. Top number divided by bottom number. You're allowed to have calculators. If you don't have one next to you, it would help, but obviously you're watching this on some sort of device that probably has a calculator at the ready. So I want the top divided by the bottom. 3 divided by 4 is going to give me 0.75. So this is 2.75. This is 2.5. 2.75 is bigger. 2.5 is smaller. 2.5 is less than 2 3/4. Couple more examples. Number 6. I've got 2 decimals. When you're comparing decimals, it's very important to look at place value, okay? I've got 2 decimal points here. I've got 1 decimal point here. If I want to make that comparison, I need to be looking at the same thing, okay? It's hard to compare apples and oranges, right? I got to have this as 2 decimal places. So I've got 8.47, 8.4. So now, when I make that comparison, it's easy to see that 47 hundredths is greater than 40 hundredths. So this is a greater than symbol. And one more example. If everything's a fraction, again, turn it in, both of them into decimals. 2/3. Get out that calculator. 2/3 as a decimal. Some of you might know this off the top of your head. 0.6 repeating. Again, I may want more decimal places, but we'll start with that. 3/5. Put that into the calculator. 0.6. Oh, they're both 6s. Okay, so I might need a little bit more precision here. That's 6, 6. That's 6, 0, 6. Greater. Bam, bam, done. There'll be an assignment. It'll be a Google form. Fill it out. Make sure you hit submit. And I'll see you tomorrow.